And we are live with our 108th episode of Absolute AppSec. I'm Ken Johnson at CK Tricky on Twitter, joined by my co-host Seth Law at Seth Law on Twitter. Seth, say hi.
Hey everybody, welcome back once again. We debated whether or not Sean should give the introduction today after the great introduction he gave at AppSec USA or AppSec DC, whatever it was, right? We're super happy to have Sean back on today. I know I don't even know if we really have any announcements or anything going on. We were talking before the podcast. I know we're getting started a little late this morning. Or this afternoon, whatever you happen to be. But, we're talking about the fact that we've all been quarantined for 6 months, or we've, the state of everything. So I don't think we have to go into a lot of that. Everybody understands what's going on in their own situations. But at the same time, it's, stay strong. We're just happy to see someone else's face, Sean, I guess is what it boils down to, right? Rather than, just the same
We're
old.
just so lonely.
We're so lonely.
Miss you, man. Even this mug.
Yeah. Especially this mug, Sean.
Oh, thanks, man.
Especially, yeah.
Yeah. From an announcement perspective, there's not a lot. We've been having discussions about the Midwinter's NightCon or whatever we're going to call it. That'll be December sometime, so watch out for that. Again, very similar to Midsummer Nights, but yeah, in the middle of the winter instead. Let's see. I don't think there's much else. Oh, we do have the Next Level Bug Hunting Code Edition will be at Black Hat. It's associated with Black Hat Europe, but it's going to be virtual, right? So Ken and I will be conducting that course again. Watch out for, if you're interested, just watch our Twitter feeds or watch the Black Hat Events Twitter feeds for the ability to register. I don't think there's anything else. Ken, am I missing something?
No, I got hit up over the weekend again by somebody asking us if we're another person who was curious if we're doing the virtual online training. And I know we're talking about figuring out a way to like a self-paced way to do that. So we are still, for those who are curious, we're still looking into that, like what it would involve, like how involved it'd be, what it would take and all that. We've done it before, but this is, it's quite an undertaking. So we'll keep you updated as we figure that out. And I don't really have anything else to add, Seth. I think we're ready to I'm excited to hear more about this virtual live series. Yeah.
Yeah, I am too. But one thing, TLDRSec, right? Clint Gibbler, right? And it had nothing to do with security. If you haven't looked up Bardcore before, just on YouTube, you should go look up Bardcore. It was part of his newsletter, and that's all I'm going to say about it. But it should be a discovery on your list this week if you haven't done that already.
That newsletter is an amazing piece of work.
It is. Clint puts in a lot of time to curate that list, but it's really, really interesting. And it does go, it's not just application security related. He goes into cloud security and other security topics. He does kind of keep it in the security space, but Bardcore is not, right? That was just another discovery and it was awesome. So anyway.
Hey, how are you guys finding the whole virtual conference, virtual training life now? Like, have you guys been able to dial in and figure out how to make it sort of, engaging and exciting? Like for me, when I'm doing prezos, a lot of times I'm feeding off an audience and just, having my screen again. It's kind of like, where to, like, how are you guys getting yourself amped up for doing that?
More caffeine?
Speaking of,
I run off pure fear and anxiety, so I don't know about Seth. That's pretty much what fuels my soul.
So it's basically just depression and
basically just being afraid
and adrenaline.
And then you do well because you're so afraid to fail and be bad at it. So.
We've had this discussion a couple of times, especially around virtual conferences, right? Because I was still helping with DEF CON and Hacker Tracker app this year, and trying to track like all the events that were going, and it's all online, Discord and YouTube. and the feel is just so different, right?
Yeah.
And I had a really hard time getting involved in much of anything, right? Outside of just kind of the daily, I would chat with people that I just hadn't chatted with for a while, but it was all over Discord. Again, it was just like another Slack channel or whatever else. And there's still some really good talks that happened and some really interesting research, but the whole social aspect, like I said, low key depressed, right? Like I miss that stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know, as far as being a trainer, like we try to, yeah. I mean, how are you guys doing that? You like your team over there at Verizon Media has always been remote. So you've always had that aspect, but now that everybody is isolated rather than just singly remote, are you seeing is it affecting the overall morale of the team? Do you feel like it's, it's getting worse? It's getting better? Are they managing well?
So if my team is watching now, they're so overworked, they don't have time to think about it. I'm sorry about that.
Sweet.
No, it's, it's very individualistic. And so what I mean by that is, someone who, if you were a consultant, your whole life going from place to place to place to place, and then you showed up here at Verizon Media and then boom, you no longer had to work in the office, you were working from home, shoot, you were used to being mobile, you weren't connected to a team. If you're somebody who's been a part of a team that's been getting together, in fact, today Tuesday?
Yeah.
What's today? Gosh, I can't remember what day it is, right? That's another problem with COVID land. But, we have this on the Dulles campus, we have like a Team Tuesdays for the team. And so we would go and just have lunch over Team Tuesdays. We're not really doing that. I sort of offered to do that virtually. And then, people are like, nah, I could, but now I'm so busy and have so many more meetings. I don't know if I want another, like hang out for lunch. And so there's a little bit of that, like, those people, we're not getting that sort of day to day just chat versus it's just kind of all about business in and out. Then you have other folks, like new folks to the team who joined literally during COVID. And some of them are just, I really miss not being able to be on what I thought was going to be my on-campus experience and going to, Earl's or, whatever, with the cafeteria and that kind of thing and spending time with folks. Others are like, hey, cool, this totally supports my life. I'm dealing with my family. It's great that I can work from home. Others are really struggling with how do I work and deal with the distractions of home during the day. Yeah. Others have dialed it in. I have one person. I honestly don't know how she fits it in all day, and I'm hoping just one day she doesn't keel over and crack. But balancing family and industry and the job and everything. And so it feels like everybody's more has their own individual journey right now and their own different struggles to bear. Even though we've got the commonality of COVID and what this means, everybody's journey is just so different. It's kind of fascinating. Like with you asking me that question just now, I hadn't realized how non-uniform it was.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm definitely seeing the same thing, right? Just everybody. It's brought that into it's basically just brought it into stark relief, the fact that everyone's situation is different, right? And so someone's stepping into like help people do assessments or whatever else, right? The way that those teams interact is I've had to be a lot more conscious about everyone's not necessarily going to be available in the same way, right?
Right.
So there may be the couple of guys that, I don't know, they're single still or whatever, and they're just online all the time. And I'm literally saying all the time, right? Like they just never disconnect. And I know we've all kind of been there like throughout our careers, but then there's the ones that, it hits 5 o'clock where they're at and they're gone, right? And you're just not going to get a response until they come back online. And so people have their own coping mechanisms for that, I guess is what it boils down to. And I'm finding personally that my coping mechanisms, like they change from week to week, right? Like there's some weeks that I wake up and I'm like, man, I'm failing at everything, right? That's what it feels like. And then other weeks it's like, oh, sweet, this is awesome. This is like, and it's the same thing, right? Because it's Groundhog Day over and over, right? But
yeah, and when you look at it, you can look at it like sort of professionally and personally. On the professional side, as security practitioners, we're engaging with a lot of people across the organization, typically, especially in this space, right? In AppSec, ProdSec versus, say, soccer, that kind of thing. And so, how do you, not only do you have to deal with how's the team dealing with how you deliver product security, but then you say, how do I deliver that and partner with my dev teams in this new environment? And by the way, every dev team already had their own climate and way of working. And some, I see the same thing. Some are thriving where they've got, different online games that they're doing. They're coming together and doing happy hours, themed happy hours. They got pictures, they have costumes. I mean, going at it. Awesome to connect with those teams. Other teams who are going through the same struggles you are. So now it's compounded, right? So now you got two teams that are still trying to find their way and struggle. And, so I think, and I think it forces us as security practitioners to be even more, I think, sort of sympathetic than we have been in the past, right? So, hey, we want to help you build secure product. We want to partner with you. Let's understand your business cycles. Let's understand your pressures. Now it's you as an individual have major pressures on top of the business cycles and the business pressures. And, how do we talk security in that kind of heightened state of stress? Yeah. So it's significant. Yeah. Good times. Good times.
Good times. Good times. Yeah. Apparently we've got like a real nihilistic, theme to the episodes going.
That's right. And I was reading, just to add to that, last night I just saw there was this huge bird die-off. Did you see this? It's like more than 100,000 migratory birds dead, dropping from the air.
Dang.
So it's very, very sort of apocalyptic. So there, how's that for Absolute?
Oh, good. Yeah.
Well, we were talking about it before we got started, but when you're a parent, you have to dial back what you show as your reaction to to all of these situations. You have to kind of dial that back in front of your. It's somewhat the same as a leader, right? Like in general, whether, and I'm not comparing the people that work for you as like children. I'm not making that comparison. I am saying that if you're in a leadership position, you usually have to dial back your response to it and focus more on the people that you're leading. And like, that could be in whatever capacity. And like, I found that to be the extra added thing that is helpful and hurtful. It's an extra stress, but it's also kind of good sometimes because like, then, it's more self-directed pressure to not like have an immediate reaction, to be a little bit more calm. So, that's just an added element to it. Especially if you're a parent or a leader, which I think you two are both. So, I'm not. I'm just a parent.
Parent. I don't know about the rest of that. But
and an IC. So as an IC, no worries about leadership. So.
Yeah.
Well, as a people leader, one of the things I miss is being able to sort of look out on the faces of the team and sort of assess where people are, and then know I need to spend some more time. Now it's harder. I might go multiple days. Stand up happens super quickly. Boom, boom, boom. We're in, we're out. But it might be multiple days before I can even really get a true read on somebody. Like, hey, how are you doing? And then you want to spend that time, but that's more work that we have to do now through COVID to just manage the workday, and it's crucial. It's all about your people. But how are they doing? I can't find that out. I can't fly out to Sunnyvale every couple of weeks or every couple of months and check in and see how the team is doing in person and be in Dulles and that kind of thing. And so that's been a whole different flavor. And
I feel like it's difficult to get that read over a Zoom call or over virtually at times, because everybody puts on a face for the camera, right? Like we all do. And so it's difficult to really get someone to talk about, what's going on. Like what you could do with a drive, like just walking by their desk and you see this general demeanor and you're like, hey man, everything okay? You want to go grab a drink or coffee? That's the kind of thing. Again, that's the kind of thing that, like, I've been an independent consultant for years and years and worked remote, but like, I still miss that sort of thing, because that was the whole, hey, I go on site, I get to meet people. There's this kind of new aspect to it, and you really get to know someone. Right. But in the situation we're in now, it's, we like have a Slack channel and like we do a couple Zoom calls, but man, I can't remember what I did last week, right? Much less 6 months ago when we were working on your project. So yeah, it's difficult. But
Yeah, we
I
did
was
this.
just having that conversation. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, man.
Yeah.
No, I
We
was just
did-
having that conversation a few days ago with about how every time I do an assessment, I immediately dump everything. That's why notes are so important, is that I just immediately dump everything that I knew about that. Because you just have to. If you look at enough things, you can't. I mean, well, I'm sure there are some people that are like supernaturally gifted at that, but I'm not one of them. Like I dump it and then I move on and I forget. So notes are so important for that reason.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah.
Yeah, same thing with the TLDR. I'd get so many things coming in, and when you get the multi-pager from multiple people all day, like I need like give me the quick hitter, and we'll come back to it.
You know what?
Yeah. How many times
recommend-
on a Zoom call do you do that, right? Like, do you pull up that email because they're like, "Hey, what are your thoughts on this? I emailed you like 3 days ago about it," and you're like, well, that's an interesting question, because you're like scrambling to pop the email up because you have no idea. I'm with both of you. Sorry.
That's a tip I give people for email writing. Is I realized it back in the Living Social days, like 9 years ago, is that if you want executives to people that are in charge of a lot of things to pay attention, you just give a little TLDR blurb at the very top, like a very high level summary. And then you give the option of, like, you have a lower part that has all the details, and you make it very clear this is the detailed section. But if you do that, it's like, I found that everybody responded like really well to that. It's just because it's like, okay, I have a high level. I know I get the gist. If I want all the details, I can come back to the email and read all the details. But like, I know that given just that gist, I can prioritize it differently and move on. Because, if you got 1,000 emails a day, like most executives do, you kind of have to do that. So you have to filter a lot of stuff. So if you want to get traction, that was the recommendation I would give.
That's a good tip. It's a good tip.
Can I just say, by the way, real quick, I was pulling up this article about the Paranoid Bug Bounty World Championship, and my goodness, are those rings very sweet. The little, oh my God, I'm going to put the link in here. People have to see these rings. These are super sweet. It's like a Super Bowl championship ring type deal.
This is pretty awesome. Got to give a shout out to the team. We got Chris Holt, Mark Litchfield, Max Staples, and Bonnie Viteri working with us. And the rings were something we did at the tail end of 2018. Actually, we did a team-based live hacking event, and at that point, what we wanted to do was we wanted to test out the concept of, could we get bounty hunters to collaborate together and pop more valuable bugs. One has one skill and they say, hey, let me hand this off to you now. I can't really figure out what to do with it. And then that person can grab it and use their techniques. And then let's celebrate those winners and congratulate them as a team, and give them these pretty awesome rings. And so kudos to, Chris Holt had this idea early on, and he ran with it, did the design and everything, and they've been a pretty coveted piece of Paranoid swag. So we're looking forward to doing that again for the Bug Bounty World Championship this year, and hopefully we have a great experience going through that. I mean, this is big. I mean, Ken, you've done these these kinds of events. What live hacking is all about. So to do this one where we take advantage of the virtual environment now, and the ability to open this up and not have folks traveling to a singular place and be sort of constrained by either geography, or in our past event there was some account set up, but just to open it up, it's pretty fun. And then somebody will get a pretty sweet ring and be able to hoist the belt and say, I am the world champion on Verizon Media.
Is there going to be a belt? Is there actually going to be a belt?
There are belts. There are other awards. There's good stuff. Yeah. There's if you take a look past events, there's like the MVH, Most Valuable Hacker, and it's like a wrestling federation style belt. You hold it up over your head, and it's a prized piece of hardware.
Has the is the scope? Is there any difference for, like, what's changed in terms of scoping, or is it the major change just being that like everybody can participate, not just a limited amount of folks, or is it that also there's a difference in scope?
Yeah. So let me take a step back, right? So this year we did our first live hacking event associated with RSA and sort of pre-RSA and B-sides out in San Francisco. And so this was a live event in February. We had a really great time out there. Who knew it was going to be, COVID was starting
time.
to, I had a sense. In fact, I jetted from RS. I was like, I don't want to be around 50,000 of my closest COVID spreaders, but so I had a sense it was coming, but we were still there, still going out to, group meals, that kind of thing. The big thing then was, what was it? There was like the elbow tap and the foot shake or whatever it was, oh, that's how we'll be safe, and otherwise we're okay, right? So anyway, so we were at that event and we were looking at the next event, which we were hoping to align with Black Hat Asia, and we literally stepped outside on the curb outside of the event, a handful of folks from the Paranoids, and said, we can't ask our hackers to travel. This is before we knew if the travel restrictions were coming and that kind of thing. We just said, it does not feel right to make people get on a plane and travel somewhere to do live hacking. What do we do? So we started thinking about it and said, let's go. I think there's traction for the virtual live hacking, opportunity. Let's take a stab at this. And then we said, okay, and we got to make this happen. And I think the event was wrapping up mid to end of February. And then we're supposed to be in Singapore in early April. So we had to pivot to a virtual live hacking event within that 6-7 week time frame. And, we put on content along with Ben Sadigapur, Nahamsek, and, made it like more of a community situation. There was some hacker Pictionary and some other things along with the typical hacking event. And when we announced we were doing a virtual live hacking event back then, there were some people who responded and said, hey, it's virtual. Why isn't this open to everybody? Why is this still the subset of people who, get invited to live hacking events? And we said, hey, listen, we heard you. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to offer up, we didn't call them golden tickets at the time, but we started internally talking about them that way. And now we talk about them that way and say, after the event, the first 3 people who submit, 3 good bugs, you will automatically get an entree into the next event. It doesn't make a difference if you've been hacking for 10 years or this is your first round and you nailed it. Cool. You're in. Done. So then we thought about that and opening it up. And then when we thought about one more live hacking event for the year, we said, what if we can open it up to everybody? And then this is also, around the time everything was happening in, society around George Floyd. And we were just looking at, everybody has sort of looked internally now and said, how are we dealing with diversity and inclusion? How are we being, appreciating the social diversity that we have now in cybersecurity in particular. So we said, could we make this an entree for a truly diverse and inclusion event? Anybody can join. There is no prerequisite. And in fact, could we set up some community events so that you could attend and you can learn a little bit more about hacking, get yourself an account, and maybe earn some bounties on any program and start to bootstrap yourself into a different financial situation, get a career. And so this last community event we did was an intro to hacking. We talked about not just hacking, but we had some success stories in the industry with the Paranoids, and they could talk about their path into cybersecurity. So how can we pivot from, this live hacking event into what's happening right now with, Seth, you were talking about, what'd you call it? What kind of depression? What'd you say it was? It's like
low key.
Yeah.
Low key. That's low key.
So,
you got low key depression.
Right?
It's a diet depression.
Diet depression.
Looking good, by the way, both of you guys. So we said, how, with COVID, with COVID and everything, can we bring something to the industry that's, shows off the Paranoids brand and making this something that people can have to look forward to, make it, something that is truly inclusive and bring hacking to everybody, maybe up level, the sort of industry around it. I don't know, we're going a little bit lofty here. I have no idea what's going to happen. I mean, you're going to unleash people maybe who haven't hacked before, don't know what they're doing. Others who have been doing it but have never been able to dip their toes into the bug bounty waters. Now they're going to try it. And of course, all the tried and true, and it challenges the tried and true who have been doing it. Hey, we're opening up to a lot more people. Can you make your way through the first round? So the first round is structured as open. It's sort of getting back to Ken's original question. So it's open to the world. We'll be announcing scope in about a week. So we'll do that as part of the event. And then coming out of that event, we're going to look at the top 50 hackers plus the golden ticket winners we were talking about. And they're going to work their way into a second event, and that's going to have a little bit more of a feel of the typical events, although virtual still. So, but we're going to be, exposing some elements of live hacking. And that was another thing. Let's really show everybody what that's all about. And then those final 50, 56 or so are going to move into the round of 25. That's the finals. And those 25 duke it out for supremacy in the Bug Bounty World Championship. In terms of scope, I mean, sorry, Seth, I didn't mean to cut you off, but we got, the tricky thing is I can't talk about it too much because, we want to surprise along the way, but, Verizon Media has a lot of different brands. And so we have a lot of places where we can tuck into for pulling scope into an event. So, definitely, there's going to be some interesting stuff along the way. In particular, there's one phase I'm very much looking forward to, but I won't be able to talk about that until afterwards.
Well, yeah, it sounds like we're going to need a follow-up for sure. Right. No, I was just going to say this feels very much like a natural evolution to me from like all of the like virtual CTF events that seem to be run, right? Like we've had the bug bounties for a while, but it's like the bug bounty researchers have always been really separated from, or it feels like they've always been very separated from kind of the professional, like, application security or product security people, right? And the product and application security people will go to conferences and they'll do a CTF, which, hey, it's super fun. It's like solving the puzzles that somebody else put together, but it doesn't have the same level of real world consequence, right? Like that the bug bounty guys and the bug bounty researchers are dealing with on a daily basis, right? They come in and they're finding an actual bug that, they're leveling up the security of that team. And I don't know if that's just because the product and AppSec people that are embedded in an organization or helping an organization are already doing that on a daily basis, that they don't want to do it in their spare time either. I'm not sure, but this kind of feels like a congruence of that, right? Where, hey, we're taking this idea of a CTF or a limited time event, we're compressing it, we're going to give out awards based on that, and invite everyone in so that the people that are in those different spaces can jump in. I mean, was that kind of the thinking behind it, or had that even occurred to you? Where?
No, there's definitely, we see such a variety, right? There's some people who are just amazingly, they've got that destructive mindset, right? And so they found their way into this space and they just know how to sort of crack things apart. There are other people who truly have been in the sort of AppSec, ProdSec world forever, and they also, do their night side hustle in bug bounty. We've got other people who've been in other areas of security, somebody who's been, a network security person or a CloudSec engineer who now realizes they can pop into bug bounty and have a really good experience. Other people who've been, professional on the data analytics side, and they realize they can use some of those techniques when they're analyzing and doing recon to find interesting bugs. So I'm seeing the variety and the number of professional security professionals who participate in bug bounty feels to me like it's gone up, while at the same time more and more people are trying their hand at it. What I wonder about is sort of the ongoing, and part of this event also, if we can mint some new bug bounty researchers out of this, I'd love that they would focus on Verizon Media as a brand, but certainly across the industry too, right? If we can add them to these different platforms and get them engaged, we're now doing, hacking at a more substantial scale and supporting that initial echelon of hackers that we have who can only go so far and pick so many programs. So we need to build that out and keep that growing for bug bounty to be successful in the industry and, a key part of a program.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So, I mean, how's the
is there any downside? I'm curious about that.
Yeah.
I'll tell you after. What do you mean about like bug bounty in general, or about the structure of this event?
No. I mean, just with the well, I don't know. Are you guys doing any is there like for us, we've had in the past, and maybe because it's virtual, you don't have the same sort of thing. But for us, when we did the live events in person, we would be like a few weeks before it actually went live, we started getting everybody prepped and allowed anything that they found within that window would be rewarded during that event, but triage prior to, because obviously we don't want them sitting on any criticals. But what we found also was like an influx of a lot of okay-ish submissions, like not. So I wasn't sure if you were seeing if there were any downsides to any of this for you, or if it's just, not a thing because we've talked about it before on the podcast. There's multiple things you can do to like eliminate that, between like filter, what's it called? I forget what it's called. It's like a filter that says like, we've caught these keywords in your submission. Double check that you actually want to submit it. Things like that,
Right,
and easy
right.
triage, and having like a first level and all that stuff. I don't know how you guys manage all that.
Yeah, well, I think one of the big elements for a bug bounty, and it sounds like you've dealt with this, is the quality of the output and the report that you provide, right? And I think it's one of those deals where you're saying, hey, I would like to exchange my research for some cash or swag. So part of that sort of solemn commitment that we make to each other is, hey, invest the time to write that up properly. And that's one of the big differences, where somebody who's been in the security field, they know what it takes to write something up so that you can prove it the right way, that somebody can take it, reproduce it, be able to fix it in a timely manner. And then other researchers who don't invest in their report writing, it adds to the churn, it adds to the amount of time to deal with resolution, and could actually impact payouts. So that was one thing we talked about in this intro to hacking session that we did, was, hey, your reports are sort of that gold currency. That is what's going to help you wend your way through the bug bounty system more cleanly. The degree to which we get poorly written reports, or reports where it's sort of a little bit more of the pray and spray kind of concept, then you got to have all the triage processes in place, and that ability to quickly whittle that down and to cull the wheat from the chaff.
So how's the scope? I mean, I just can't imagine.
He wants to tease out what the scope is.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to join the event. Yeah. No.
I know. No, I'm trying to think, because there's so many properties that Verizon Media is responsible for. I mean, what I meant by that was more like, wow, that has to be quite a bit of work for your team. And I assume you have you're using HackerOne's support, their team as well. I know we did.
Yeah, we're partnered up with them for live events. Absolutely.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Nice.
So yeah, there's no way. I'd have to recruit, a ton of people internally to help us out.
Yeah.
Opening it up like we are. So, I'm intrigued. And this is one of the things that Verizon Media and the Paranoids try to do. We try to, innovate in the space and challenge ourselves and see what we can do. And so, how's this going to end? I don't know. I'm super excited to see the end of the first round in particular, and just see what we get. And are we able to mint some new hackers? Does somebody new show up that completely surprises us? When we had somebody show up at event in Argentina, didn't really know him at all, and boom, he showed up and he had a great event. It's turned out to be an amazing hacker on the platform, in the space. So who knows what we're going to see? And the team is definitely working super hard, lining everything up. And we've got we try to focus on sort of operational processes, repeatability, operational excellence, while we're also trying to push the envelope. And so there are run books that we're using, but we've switched to virtual. So a bunch of what we were doing before had to be sort of recast as we headed out of the March and April event, and now has to be recast again for the size and scope of what we're doing here. So, but the team's actively working on it and getting the organization fired up for it, and everybody's pretty excited.
Yeah, these are always they're always a lot of work, but they're also a lot of fun. And like you said, it also gives people an opportunity who didn't previously have experience, to kind of like put their name out there, build their brand, pursue a career if that's what they choose to do. So it's got a lot of positives. Well, I didn't tell you this yet, but whenever your report comes out, like I think every year you all have a report of like how much you paid out, like what kind of, just a breakdown of like, your year in bounty basically. And we always read it like, dang, we're way behind. We're way behind them. I mean, we don't have the amount of properties, but yeah, we're always like, paid out so much. We tend to look at that as a positive on our end. So
it's time to level up over there.
I know.
What are you guys doing, right?
Because Verizon Media has a lot of engagement on your program, and that's always something that I think anybody watching this would know that. But yeah, we always strive to have participation as much as possible in the bug bounty. That's kind of what you're doing as not you personally, but as an organization when you run a bounty. Obviously, that's like one main goal, and so you're constantly trying to figure out ways to like broaden the spectrum of people willing to invest their time to look at your stuff, and events like this certainly help, especially that sweet swag. I'm stuck on this swag. It's so
Which is
cool.
why he keeps asking about scope there, Sean. Yeah.
I know, and I'm like, well, yeah. Pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's an amazing thing that we've done in the program, and it's been a very specific focal area for us in the last couple of years. I think you can operate programs a couple different ways, and the industry has pivoted, it feels like, where is the researcher your adversary, or are they a federated paranoid? Are they somebody who, look, is helping me get more secure? I appreciate their efforts in terms of what they're doing for our products and our brands, or is my role to argue down to the $10 what they're going to get on the bounty, and really, maybe tick them off and have them not show back up to the program again. Our focus was about, community interaction, embracing the community, respecting the researchers, and spending the right time with them to build some, loyalty to the program and loyalty to their time hacking. Because I recognize, one researcher, Stoke, was talking about bounty fever, and we did this panel together, and he said, I submit my bug, and man, I'm driving my wife crazy. Like every hour I'm sitting there, I'm refreshing, and have they done anything? Has anything happened yet? And a program that lets you stagnate after that, like we recognize that there's the excitement on your end and the work that you put in. It could be 3 months worth of research that led to a bug. If we don't treat you well over the course of our interactions with you, that's just a major bummer. So we really focused on that. And that's one reason why we love the live events. And it's been hard in the virtual sphere is to keep building the relationships, right? The ability to go out for drinks, to have a meal together, even during live hacking, right? When you hit the buffet and you're like, side by side with, one of your researchers, and hey, how's it going? And hey, I got a question. And that's where you build some great moments and some ability to have a relationship beyond the live event in the bug bounty sphere. So how do we do that on the virtual side? And we're still trying to figure that out. So it's, we did some office hours, for instance, in the first round, and we just said, hey, look, normally you'd catch me out and about talking with somebody, grabbing a piece of swag, whatever, even getting a cigarette, whatever the deal is, and you could tap me on the shoulder and say, I have a question. And then boom, we have that moment. How do you recreate that? We were talking about that, before, or I guess on the front side of the show. How do you recreate that? So, we're trying to figure that out. We're experimenting. Some things work. Some things we leave on the cutting room floor and say, well, we're not going to do that again. So, we're hoping that we can do that here. And then the tricky thing here is the amount, the number of people that we've engaged. So, when we talk about a global live hacking event, what kind of engagement can we have? We're going to do the best that we can, and hopefully spend a good amount of time with a whole lot of people over the course of that period of hacking, especially in that first round.
Yeah. I mean that was going to be my next question. Is like aside from the scope and everything else that you're looking at, like what is the platform that you're going for here? Like, how are you interacting with the researchers, or what is the plan, especially that first round? I mean, I imagine registrations have got to be in the hundreds, if not the thousands. So how do you get them into a room and actually have some sort of meaningful interaction with them? Like, what is your plan for that?
Yeah. So, we have a series of events going on. We're going to have, different communication vectors. We're going to be using different social media approaches. But really the question is, let's say, and I'm going to arbitrarily pick numbers because I'm not going to, I don't want to release numbers yet or anything like that. But let's just say we have 500 people who have agreed to do this. Of that 500, first of all, because it's global, how many are even in a geography where they want to get up at 3 a.m. to attend a community session or office hours or something else, right? So there's some percentage that are just going to not engage with the community stuff, and they'll do it asynchronously afterwards via, YouTube videos, that kind of thing. Then there's a subset left. And then of that subset, how many of them are interested in engaging with the community elements of the event beyond, I'm just showing up to hack. I want to put my head down and just, show my technical prowess and let's pop some bugs. Then there's a subset of folks who believe that they'll participate in some of the events, right? Not all, let's say not all, right? And they think they're going to participate, but after a couple of days of hacking and being tired, they go, forget it, I'm out. So now you're down 2. So I don't know what those percentages are going to look like. So, I think this will be something that would be interesting. And I'll go back to the bounty team and talk about, hey, can we track that maybe when we blog after the event and talk about what the outcomes were from the event? What was that level of engagement? What was that level of attrition? If we had 500 people registered, do we have 3 people on one of our community sessions, or did we have 150 or more, and we were maxing out what our plans were and how we could respond to questions? And I'd love that situation. I don't know. I'd love to not have challenges of massive volume over the course of the event, and I'd love, but I'd also love to have that challenge and say, wow, it was so big that we needed to go even over the top with how we were engaging with the community, and shoot, let's do it again. And like I said in another session, this is probably the first and the last of this kind that we're going to do. Like, to do a global version of this, we're going big. It was COVID-19 year. Let's bring some fun and joy to the program and to the community, and really challenge ourselves. Let's see what we can do. Pulling this off is pretty substantial. So, I don't like, we don't have another one roadmap to global event. Certainly other virtual live hacking events, but I don't know. Or this might be amazing. It might be incredible. It goes totally smoothly. We get everything that we need. We can, all the things that we've anticipated. We're locked in. We're solid. And hey, we can do another one of these again. I have no idea. I'll tell you afterwards. I don't know. And that's part of the excitement. The team every day, we just talk about how jacked up and excited we are about this thing, and everybody's looking forward to it. And it's going to be a lot of work. I mean, when we were envisioning this, we said, this is a major commitment. I mean, you guys know what the effort is just to put one of these on, much less 3 back to back to back. So we're going to leave each event and have to jam and get the list ready and get the next one going, and it's going to be a monstrous period. So that is phenomenal. But the team is totally excited. HackerOne is a partner. They've been all in, committed to doing this with us. Totally loved the idea, and they were been supportive along the way. So I think it's it's got some good upside. There's downside we're trying to manage to it, but I guarantee you something happens in the middle of it that we didn't plan for, and we'll just adapt.
Well, it is 2020, so
that's exactly it.
All bets are off. You don't know what's going to happen next.
Yeah, maybe it ends up being crickets. Maybe nobody hacks, right? Just we can't even.
No one can find anything, and you get like a
Well, that was
platform headers. Yeah,
that was honestly the conversation, right? We said, we're being maybe a little cocky, saying we'll have a top 50 list. What if 17 bugs show up? Shoot, okay. It's the top 17 then, I don't know. And I'm assuming that's not going to happen, but who knows? So we're really excited. Appreciate you letting us chat a little bit about what's coming. And to get a chance to, I think, Ken, you attached the link to the blog site. And so it's got the shot of the rings and the concept of the event. And then there's some of the backstory as well of how we, what led to the event in the first place. And it get a little bit more detail about that meetup outside on February on the San Francisco streets.
Yeah, I have the article right here to post. I think this should be the backstory link about what how it came about, your process, your thinking. So yeah, I would highly recommend people check out both of those links. I read it last night. Just, trying to see what y'all are going for. I mean, again, I do watch what Verizon Media does, since we're both going through HackerOne and, both have the bounty program. So it's always interesting to see how y'all are tackling those challenges. That's why I asked so many questions there about like the internal workings. It's because I'm just curious how y'all so like when we when I mentioned earlier, for instance, the having the couple weeks or a few weeks, whatever it is, before the event, that came because the first year we learned a lesson from that, because the first year that we did a live event, we didn't have that. And then like all of us were technically in Vegas, but we were all in this like war room, and we never had any opportunity to really leave it.
Yes.
So it's because all the submissions dropped that night, right? Whereas if you have a few weeks, you can triage, you can disseminate, you can collate, you can do all the lates and or eights or whatever, and you have more time to and then you triage, you pay out rather that night versus the triage that night also, and it makes it less stressful, so you can actually go and mingle. That was one of the things we had learned from the first event. But I feel like every time you do these events, you're always learning. You're always learning. I don't know if that's true for you, but that's definitely been true for us. We're always figuring out new things.
100%. And then as we roll out new tweaks to the format, then we learn what was good about that, what were the unintended consequences of that, and then there's something else to learn. Yeah, we do our best to prepare properly, and that's the same thing. I feel like the experience, and especially when it used to be in person versus virtual, but somebody's going to take time out of their life, jump on a plane, possibly halfway around the world, pop in somewhere, be jet lagged, spend some time for the course of a couple of days with your company, with your scope. Let's make sure that we're dialed in, and I'll tell you, so we have what we're doing now. And again, I don't know what the outcome is going to be. I hope it's going to be great. We're going to probably fall down a couple spots and is what it is. But, along the way, we've built this almost like a kit on how we can deliver the events within Verizon Media. We know all the different pieces and parts, and then we just tweak other pieces. That has been a long process. So we've done, I can't remember the exact number now, maybe 12 or so events. I don't know what number this is. I should know that actually. But the very first event,
a lot of them.
I know, right? The first event that we did, I remember, we almost didn't get into virtual live hacking events. I mean, we were this close. I was just talking to one of the H1 guys about this, and we participated in an event in India, and they weren't given a lot of. They were given a recon lead time, but they didn't do any recon. I think there was a misunderstanding about how the event would go. So they started their recon at the start of the event and basically got to the end of the event and they'd finished recon and the event was over. So there were almost no submissions. Oof. And so I remember saying, this is not a very valuable thing for me to spend my time on. By the way, it was in India, so there's the time difference. So I had people up at 2 a.m. to engage on certain things, and so we're really thinking about not doing it. And then we were talking about what it would be like for the H1 415 2018. So that was the one aside in 2018 associated with B-Sides and RSA in San Fran, and we talked about it, and in fact, Jana, who I was working with at the time, when we were talking, and I said, okay, yep, after all serious deliberations, I agreed to do it. She said, oh, I was positive you weren't going to do it. This is pretty cool. and I kept saying, I'm not sure. I don't know what the value is. I don't know if this is worth the time. And, I got other things going on. Is this, and anyway, long story short, what we ended up doing was every event for us has a specific objective, and it's an objective about testing hypotheses about the program, and as well as about understanding the posture of our products. So for that objective, we were just formed Oath, which was the smooshing together of Yahoo, AOL, and different properties for Verizon Digital Media Services, like Edgecast, Uplink, OnQ, Volleycon, all that stuff. Anyway, we smooshed all that together and we called it Oath. And we were talking about a slow roll for how to get Bug Bounty incorporated, because we had different platforms, different programs, different states of maturity. How would we create an Oath bug bounty program, and Oath is the precursor to Verizon Media now. So we said, you know what, let's do this. The hypothesis for H1 2018, that first event after the other one, will be for one day, we will open this up as a public program. Everything. Let's just see what we see, right? And this is kudos to our former CISO, Chris Nims. He was very sort of aggressive in his strategy there, and so he was always kind of pushing us pretty hard, and that kind of formed the pedigree for the program. It's a little bit of his legacy for us, but so we did that, and that was very different than the experience we had with the India live hacking event, and that set the tone for wow, we can get a tremendous amount of value. And to be fair to to the Indian community, I'm going to be presenting at CoCon pretty soon, but on bug bounty. But back then, the industry has changed so much in 2 years in terms of bug bounty. So we're getting researchers now from all over the globe who just kind of show up, and we go, wow, where did you come from? And, they're all different geographies, all different experience sets. And so I'm really curious to see as a hacking community, how have things evolved, across those geographies? How are they in Taiwan, in Dublin, in India, in England, all over? There's different philosophies, different concepts, different commitments to bug bounty. So I'm sort of excited to see what's the perceptions from, the Indian geography 2 years after that first test of what would it be like if we did a live hacking event. So that's just super fun.
Hey, is this the is that the conference, the one I just put into the chat?
Let me take a look.
C0C0N?
Yes.
Sweet. Awesome. Okay.
Yeah, nice.
Just wanted to make sure that was the right conference, because I don't want to send links to a conference you're not speaking at.
No, thank you. No, there's a good slate of speakers there, and I was pretty honored to be asked to speak at. They have a bug bounty area, so we're gonna spend some time talking very specifically about bug bounty. So it should be pretty awesome.
Awesome. You know what I'm sad about is that I'm not going to be able to physically run into you at Busch Gardens this year. I wasn't able to like last time.
That was so random, man. That was so random. And I remember, and you looked at me. I mean, obviously, out of context, when somebody sees you, it's you need that moment to kind of flip through and connect the face and the name and then say something. So and I saw you in an instant. I was like, Ken. You just turned around.
I was like, what? Yeah, if anybody comes to Virginia, you should always go to Busch Gardens in Williamsburg. It's awesome. Well, when this whole mess is over with, eventually, hopefully.
And they have that awesome, that whole setup for Halloween. It's just, oh man, there's so many. Yeah. In fact, we're thinking about like, what is Halloween like this year? And obviously, that's sort of first world problems. But what are you going to tell the kids? And you're going to trick or treat, and we'll put something in, something in the bathroom, something in the kitchen.
Yeah, I'll go answer each of those doors. But you have to change costumes for every one.
Oh, that'd be fun. We were talking about making like a big shoot from the second story, and then have the kids put their bags down there. Candy comes down. Just make it fun, knock a 2-year-old off their legs.
Yeah. You're gonna pull out the potato gun next and just put candy in it, right? That's
oh, there you go. But Ken, how about you on the bug bounty program? Anything interesting happening in your neck of the woods these days?
I've been off the rotation with bug bounty for a couple months. Actually, it's time for me or a month, or I don't know. So it's probably actually time for me to go back on the rotation. But no, nothing huge or major to report. I mean, we've expanded our scope from just .com and GitHub Enterprise over the last couple of years, and just because the company, the acquisition with Microsoft, we have more things out there. Our scope's much broader. So yeah, we're dealing with a little bit of the growth of our organization, and then trying to keep up with that on the AppSec side with an expanded scope. So the bounty is very much active, but yeah, it's been interesting. I'll say that. Not bad in any way, but it's just been like interesting because we've seen this uptick during COVID where people are at their computers seemingly more than ever. And that has just really inundated us for a bit. I mean, even myself last week, I found myself like, working late just because I just kind of, I think you guys were talking about in the beginning, like, honestly, I just lose track of time and just, end up, I mean, one night it was getting to be like 7:30 at night. And I kind of just lost track of time. I was still just working and I was like, whoa, what am I doing? Like, that's, get a little balance, man. But, yeah, for sure happens. So,
well, I mean, one of my questions to both of you guys, right? Because there's a couple of smaller companies that, I end up helping triage bug bounty stuff as it comes in for them, and they're private programs, but I mean, we're talking nowhere like, I mean, if they're 1% the size of either of your organizations, I'd be surprised, right? Like it's just a small org. They've got a small program, and you talk about researcher engagement and trying to make it palatable for people to actually submit bugs. But most of what I get, and I mean, this is probably indicative of, most bug bounty programs, but most of what I get is realistically kind of that low hanging fruit where you can tell that they went through and, oh, I did subdomain takeovers for this org. Now I'm going to do it for this org. Now I'm going to do it for this org. Right. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. But there's this whole complex like application that they want, that's really the reason that the company wants you in there looking at it. But I have a hard time figuring out who those researchers are that would actually dig into it and then making it, making it attractive enough that they come in and they actually do the hard work rather than just, I'm just trying to get, my whatever small payout for the stuff that I do for every organization. I mean, have you found that there's many custom, I mean, I know you guys have those, like that those top researchers are involved in your programs, right? And they dive in and they do, hours and hours of work, but I have yet to run into that in some of these smaller programs.
Yeah, I think all the smaller programs can do is incentivize, like, from my perspective, and I don't know what Sean's is, there's only a few things that you can do there. One is you need to make sure that you can be responsive. Like, you need to be responsive. Like, just you honestly have to make up for the lack of attractiveness in other areas from like maybe the amount of properties that you have to go after by other means. So good payouts, like really good payouts, like maybe even more competitive than others. You need to have be really responsive, really promote. You need to market it. I mean, there's extra work that you have to do when you're not, a set of properties that is really interesting or, is so wide that you're likely to find vulns. I think that's something that the bounty researchers factor in. So you absolutely have to do that. But to be more responsive, that means you have to do a lot of things internally. And we've talked about it many times where it's a lot of just optimization through things like chat ops, through like filtering, being very explicit in your scope about what's in scope and what is specifically out of scope. And then also just like the filters that I was talking about earlier, where you can have certain keywords that trigger a warning saying like, I'm not sure if you really want to submit this because remember, this type of stuff is out of scope per this. And then if you want to proceed because, it is in scope and this warning was incorrect, submit on through. So if you can do some optimizations internally to speed up your responses and your payouts and your triage time plus marketing, I think that'll go a long way. But you do have an uphill battle if you're a smaller set of properties and a less well-known company.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think there's one element and that goes hand in hand with that marketing. It's sort of this notion of a targeted campaign. So how do you spend your money? And maybe what a company like that would do is they would say, these are the kinds of vulnerabilities I'm really, really interested in, right? So it's not the subdomain takeovers, it's, something beefier. And so I'm going to actually throw a chunk of my bug bounty budget at this 3-week campaign. And I've got a private program and I'm going to say, I'm looking for these kinds of vulns and I want to pick the researchers who know how to find those kinds of vulns on my kind of tech. And let's go ahead and make it worth their while with a nice, bucket of cash, either different payout or some bonus challenges, right? Hey, if you can not just find this bug, but then do this with that bug, we'll get you a bonus, right? Make it kind of exciting. It almost becomes like a mini event. That's that maybe a smaller company could attract, some really well-aligned, strong talent to find valuable bugs.
Yeah. And if I'm in their shoes, I don't want HackerOne to be my first level of triage. I want someone who cares about, I want an employee or, a contractor, a trusted contractor to be doing first level triage on these things. I do not, no offense to HackerOne, but that's not who I really want doing it. I want somebody who is invested in me, who's the most invested in me as an organization. I'm saying, obviously not me as a person, me as an organization, because they're going to care more. That's what I'm looking for. I want someone who cares more, who wants to have that conversation with the researchers, who wants to, provide a response that's like, look, maybe that's not in scope, or maybe this doesn't make sense, but here, could you, or, hey, like you found this thing and I think it might, maybe you should can you pursue finding this on other points of the end of like the application? Like, are there other parts of the application that might be vulnerable to this? We're going to look on our side. Do you want, just somebody who really cares and like, isn't just like trying to just get it done and pay it out and just move on. Like somebody who really cares about the overall process and communication. To do first
and cares about the relationship, right? Hey, they're representing the security function. They're representing the company as they interface with this person on the other side of the screen. You have no idea who they are. Treat them with respect, give them some tips. Like if you can tell it's somebody who was really well-intentioned, but they didn't craft the report correctly, or they're not quite in the right place. Like you said, hey, have that dialogue back and forth. And you called it a conversation, which is awesome. It's not just this, I'm going to dump my feedback in the ticket. Now get out of here. It's let's really engage and represent each other well.
Yeah. And and this is what I'm running into though. Because it's the organizations that, like, they want to take security seriously, right? So they've already engaged. They've done, your traditional, security assessments. They've done code reviews, and they're like, "Hey, we're going to invest in bug bounty. So we're going to go work with HackerOne or Synac or whoever, and build this bug bounty program in." But the value that they get out of it, or they see coming out of it, just doesn't align with some of the other efforts that they have, right? And so part of me getting involved in this has been, okay, like they want someone with knowledge of the AppSec side of things to be responsive and to interact with the researchers, so their heart's in the right place. But again, that's the struggle that I've had with those, is that the level of researcher activity isn't necessarily up to par with what they're looking for, right? Yeah. And we keep widening, we invite more and more people into it. But up to this point, right, like I look at the vulns that have come in on some of these programs, and I'm like, yeah, you're right, that was an issue, right? But it didn't rise to the level of, hey, there was a custom attack against their application. It was very much a rote bug that most of the. I mean, you go through Jason Haddox's, bug bounty researcher methodology. It's one of those steps in there, right? That's basically the level that I've seen at this point.
Which I think he's actually revamping, by the way. I think he's working on like a whatever version he's on. Yeah. But I think he's rewriting the whole thing. Like I saw a thing on Twitter about it. So I'm like he might have already released it. I don't know. I don't think so. I think he just started a couple weeks ago. So like I'm excited to.
Well, he did. I mean, he presented at DEF CON at like the Red Team Village or AppSec Village, one of the two, right? Like he presented his current version, right? And it's not to knock on Jason and that methodology, because it's great and it's needed. But like, I know this conversation is going to come up with these organizations about, okay, is bug bounty worth it for them? And I want it to be, because I want that ability to be there for the researchers and others, because it feels like a more inclusive platform. But I've got to figure out some way to engage the other elements that they're really looking for. Hence the reason I'm asking.
Are you ready is a good question, because you do need to be ready for it. And if you've not taken care of a lot of internal and sort of like, basic security hygiene, you're not ready for it.
Oh, yeah.
If you're a one-person security shop, you're not ready for it. You're just not.
Yeah.
One-person security shop's not the right person for a bug bounty. You need a team. So
yeah, and there's the precursor work, and then one of the key things I always look out for in a bug bounty program, as people ask me, how do they start them up? And I say, have you documented your objectives? Like, what do you want to get out of a bug bounty program? Do you want a checkbox to say that you have it? So when an auditor shows up, it's one thing that you have, and you hope nobody ever submits to it. Is it, you just want something out there, and you'll put one person on it, and that's it? Or does it achieve a certain objective? Is it going to identify issues that you have in your products that you never could have thought to test with the size of your team? Or is it, you are going to, engage with an interesting set of research and try to incorporate that research into the way you do business from a security standpoint? At Verizon Media, we have something we call the BBLC, is a bug bounty life cycle. And it's this concept that even after the bug comes in, and we, and you address it either surgically just to close the bug, or you look back and say, where else could this exist? You then even pull back further and say, do we have something that we want to change across the ecosystem of the enterprise? Let's spin up a BBLC project that will actually materially change the organization. And I talked to some researchers about it, and I said, look, you're now influencing an entire enterprise. Right. So not only did you get the payout of the bug, but an enterprise is actually spinning up an initiative because of the insight that you provided. That's really cool for you, but that's amazing for me, because what that does, that drives the net cost per bug actually down, because I can derive more value into my program, taking the researcher TTPs and updating tools or processes or, the tech or whatever the case may be. That is pretty cool. But that's aligns with an objective that we have. So what are you trying to accomplish? Then does bug bounty solve what you're trying to accomplish? You might say, by the time you describe your objectives, you go, that's not how I would do it. I should just hire, right, somebody with that skill set, and they won't be available for 7 months, but that's okay. In 7 months, they'll come in and they will provide so much great insight. That'll be awesome. Or do I really want to bring this community to bear on my scope? And what do I think I'm going to get from it? So I think that articulation of objectives is really key to derive success in bug bounty.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this has actually been great, because I have like some ideas now as far as, because I do see them stall out, right? I basically see the program stall out, and just adding researchers hasn't necessarily brought the same level of quality that I know and I've seen in bug bounty reports in the past.
Right.
So, I mean, this is helpful for me, and I'll have a discussion with the team on that other side. So appreciate it. So
yeah.
I figure I may as well pick your brains while you're beholden to me in the, whatever we're doing here. So yeah.
That's what this is about, my man.
Yeah. But I mean, Sean, we've been going for an hour. I don't want to, monopolize your time. It feels like we could just keep going and going for sure. So, is there anything else that you want to mention or bring up? Like, you're going to be at KCON, however you say that, right? ConCon, speaking there virtually. You're doing the live hacking event. Is there anything else that you would like to talk about before we wrap up today's episode?
No, I know I'm going to be at Security with HackerOne talking about BBLC in way more depth. So that could be fun, but we're still finalizing some pieces of that. I think the big thing, last time I was here, we're talking about interns and driving talent into the program. I'm actually sort of surprised, because I thought with some of the changes that happen in security functions around the U.S. and the globe, that there'd be more folks in the talent pool lately. I haven't seen that as much. It's still been pretty tight, but we did engage with some interns, have some good experiences in trying to pivot interns into hires and get that going within both within ProdSec, but definitely within Paranoids, and that's been I think pretty positive. Shout out to Sean Thomas, who does a great job with interns in the Paranoids. But for me, it's just about the big thing that's been on my mind lately is automation and federation of the team and what we do, right? And so just continue to pivot at the kind of scale that we have. So it's probably an entire topic for another time. But we're working on that and constantly thinking about that, and we have some initiatives underway that we're excited about. So it's fun, ever onward. I mean, the no day is the same within product security in the security space.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's always interesting, and I just think it's awesome. So anybody who's thinking about, getting into the space, and honestly, if you're a software developer and you got a little bit of a destructive mindset and you're a little bored, come on over to the dark side and join us in the AppSec, ProdSec world. It's good stuff. So would love to have you anywhere with Seth's team, with Ken's team, my team, wherever. Just stop developing and come join us now.
Yeah. Stop developing.
Stop
come help us
doing it.
Wait. I mean, help us build our programs and secure the world. There you go.
That's it. Oh, and I do, of course, I gotta push for, there's a site, theparanoids.com has our current openings, and there's a ProdSec engineer I'm trying to fill. So if you're watching this and are intrigued, please reach out. Shameless plugging.
I love it.
That's good. That's good. That's why you come on, and definitely, right. Like, we can recommend, if anybody has questions, people can find Sean on Twitter. Kind of, I guess, is that,
That's it. Well, yeah, I was telling Ken, you Twitter shamed me last time. So no, I had an account. I had used it for a while. I'm pretty vested over in LinkedIn, so I have way more of a presence in LinkedIn, but I'm definitely jumping into Twitter, been trying to engage more. And so it's been fun and very different. It's interesting how different the content is, even with all the, cybersecurity folks who are in both platforms. It's very different, folks playing in Twitter and what they're sharing compared to LinkedIn. So that's been fun. Hey, there it is.
See, there you go. We're going to promote you. We're going to bring you over to the dark side that is Twitter.
There you go.
That is the dumpster fire that is Twitter, right? Yeah. InfoSec Twitter at times can get very drama heavy. Anyway,
yeah.
But it is a great resource. So if you've got questions for Sean, feel free to reach out. Obviously, right, we're always on Slack or whatever else, and if you can't find him, hit up me or Ken, and I'm sure we can track him down in some way or another. Since we do have that back channel. But we appreciate all that you do. Coming on the show again, and we'll want to follow up definitely after the live hacking event, because I think it would be interesting to actually dig into the scope and everything else that happened and how things went. Just do a debrief if you're interested in it. That is
absolutely, right? Absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to maybe even bring one or two of the other team members, and we can talk about some stories in the trenches. You don't have to listen to my talking head the whole time, but that'd be awesome. I really love
it'd be fun to get Mark or Chris on, or whoever, right? Like on your side. I'd love to have those guys on. It'd be fun. So.
Yeah, and we are gonna have some serious learnings coming out of this thing. So definitely, I won't be, there'll be some behind the scenes, in the trenches kind of stories that we can share.
Cool, sweet.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. Always good chatting.
Thank you for your time.
Ken, anything else before we close out today?
Just thank you to everybody who has been watching.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
All right. Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.